Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the March 11th School Committee meeting. I'm sorry we're starting a few minutes late. Had to run back and get the boards for advisory. So if you guys need to leave, they're behind us if you need to take them to the meeting. Okay, so our first item, our approval of the regular session minutes of February 25th, 2013.
Okay, so there was one change to the minutes. Page 1, coming up from the bottom at line 7, there was, I will read it to you. Projected surplus for fiscal year 14 town budget and projected surpluses, oh gosh, forecast for next 4 years indicate that the budget is sustainable. Important to restore services to the levels expected by Hingham residents after the unavoidable cuts during the past 5 years. That's it.
That was a clarification of a particular member's comments, right? I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the regular session of February 25, 2013.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, I feel I'm going to use this today. Someone should take this away from me. All right, our next item of business is approval of the executive session minutes of February 25th, 2013.
I'll make a motion that we approve the executive session minutes from February 25, 2013.
Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, student communications, this might be too early for Stephen.
Well, it may also be because students need to be at the
Oh, the meeting.
spring sports tonight. I don't know, but that may be the reason.
I will be missing that myself. Okay. Any other communications, Dr.?
Oh, we have lots of communications.
Okay.
Several of them were at your places tonight. First of all, we did receive the follow-up letter from the plumbing board confirming their decision to modify the number of fixtures needed, but also reminding us that they expected a letter from me confirming that, in fact, we would allow the school bathrooms to be open as well as the concession building bathrooms to be open during large events. So on the one side, you have their letter to me, and on the other side, you have my confirmation back to them. Just wanted a lot of people to have that letter, you know. As personnel change of the time, it's important that we memorialize that commitment. The second thing that we have there is this afternoon, early afternoon, we did receive the planning board decision. Came from Mary by email. I forwarded it all to you, but I also printed it out because it was a lengthy decision. And so certainly that is a good thing to have in hand, and it came this afternoon. I mentioned in my memo to you that subsequent to the meeting of the 25th, we did get a fair number of emails from parents at South School, most of whom I think had attended the meeting on that evening, advocating again for an additional teacher there. And certainly that is something we'll continue to monitor. We make the actual staff allocations in May, as I've said many times before, and we'll look carefully at that, particularly at that K-1 situation that is of most concern to them. But the letters are here in case anyone wanted to take a look. They are a form kind of letter, so for the most part they're similar, but there are a few individual comments you might want to look at. The next thing is that Margaret Connedy sent me an email this morning with a letter that she has addressed to the advisory committee. Margaret is doing the spring sports event tonight, which is a cast of hundreds, if not thousands, and she needs to be there, will not be able to attend the advisory meeting, so she wanted the advisory committee and all of you to have a sense of what her feelings and comments are. I don't know if you've received that yet.
We did, and we appreciate it.
Good, so you have that in your packet. And lastly, I just want to confirm that Carol and I both have had conversations with Donna Keeney, who's the current president of CPAC, about having a liaison assigned to CPAC in the same way that we have liaisons assigned to the various school councils and also to the Hingham Ed Foundation. And we think that's certainly a good idea. At this point in the year, it may make sense to wait to make that assignment until after the election and the committee reorganization, at which time we would be doing normal assignments to the various subcommittees. But we wanted you to be aware of that and have an opportunity to comment on that. And I think that's it for the communications.
Okay, so that's quite a bit of communications for us. I'd like to thank all the people who took the time to write the letters in regard to the additional add to staff, and that is something we would, take a look at as the year progresses, and we have an idea of what enrollment will be. And I agree with you, Dot. I think assigning the CPEC liaison should take place, after elections, when we have final.
I would make one other comment under communications, and that is that I had 8 or 9 letters from parents at eSchool who wrote to me when they heard that the extended day kindergarten that has been for the last 5 years at eSchool with another class at Foster, 2 years at Plymouth River for a year, and this year at South, that the 2 classes that we'll have next year will be at Plymouth River and South, because that best reflects where the children who will populate those classes will be, the children with special needs. So parents, of course, are sorry to lose the class, and in particular the teacher, so they've written to me. Tony and I have talked, and I will meet with a group of any interested people to explain that process just before their PTO meeting on Thursday of this week.
Yeah.
And I think that, are you doing that meeting yet, or you, Carol? That's our meeting at,
I'm doing it? Oh, great.
Because I'm doing PRS at the same time.
Okay, that's right.
It's the
Okay.
13th?
so this will be a separate meeting.
About Foster?
Excuse me?
You're talking about
No, I'm talking about East.
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 You've already done Foster.
Was Foster
No,
was going to get back, did they?
They were going to come back with a different date.
Oh.
Okay, I'll have to check
You haven't
on
heard,
that.
okay.
Okay.
But the East date is firm, and the East date, let me just double check.
I think I put it into my calendar.
It's Wednesday.
It's the 13th.
Is on the 13th, Wednesday.
Because
The
I have PRS at
13th
the same
on Wednesday,
time.
it's at 7,
Okay.
and the
Great.
meeting that,
We'll have to split up the pictures, Ray.
That's okay.
Okay.
and the meeting relative to the kindergarten question is at 6:30.
Okay.
Carol,
Yes.
just since Dot mentioned about the planning board thing, since I had the, I don't know if it was the misfortune or the good fortune not to be at the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I was out of town at the time. When I read through this, on the very last page, when it talked about the conditions of use for the lights and sound, it said that in regard to sound, for other Hingham High School teams during the week, that only player introductions and national anthem would be done. And I thought we had talked about that there might be cheerleading or things. Is that never a situation?
Yep, and you know what, I will be very honest and
Yeah.
haven't had the time to read all this.
Well,
so
I just read through it because I didn't know what was discussed, so I just thought I would mention it.
Yep, no, we are allowing cheerleading, and there will be songs. It's mostly football that uses the dance team. We don't have.
Right, but I remember some discussion about that there might be something at halftime on some of the other games as well, which is why we went to 7:30.
Yep, we'll.
I wouldn't
let
worry
us-
about it.
Let us take
Well, I
some
just
time
want-
and look at this, yeah.
Just want to make sure.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay. So you know what, actually Dennis brings up a very good point, take your time and review this document carefully. And we can talk about it later. Okay, questions and comments, item 5. All the regulars out there, so questions or comments. Item 6, new business. So 6.1 is to discuss the proposed budget recommendation by AdCom and Board of Selectmen and take actions as may be appropriate. So let's take the capital budget to start. As you know, graciously given back $50,000 to add back into our capital budget. So I think we should take the opportunity to vote this new recommended capital budget and accept it as proposed. Any thoughts, comments, agreement, disagreement? Okay, so I'll take a recommendation.
I'll make a motion that we approve a capital budget for the school department for fiscal 2014 in the amount of $550,734 as recommended by the Capital Outlay Committee and voted by the Advisory Committee and the Board of Selectmen.
In a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And then in regard to the operating budget, I did have discussions with Ted on Sunday. He is taking care of a relative down in Florida. And he feels that at this point, the budget will be as is until probably about June. And at that point, if we need to, we could reopen our budget. But I think at this point, I would suggest that we vote our budget to be in line with what Selectmen and Advisory have recommended. Any comments or suggestions on that?
I'd like to speak to that issue. I, first of all, just want to say I really appreciate the time that the Education Subcommittee took with us in our budget. I know it was different and it was difficult, and I understand your reasoning and how you got to where you got to and how you focus on level services and the restoration of some key personnel that Dot pointed out. The issue that I'm struggling with is how do we as a town deal with funding brand new initiatives or programs that help us to be creative or current or competitive with other towns that allow us to react to global initiatives or changes in technology. So if level services continues to be the yardstick that we measure our budgets by in good times, I'm not talking about the past, I'm talking about when we have our fund balances back to where it needs to be and we have great forecasts, I'm afraid that we get forever stuck in the present. And so, although I understand all the reasoning and I appreciate the money that you allocated and recommended, I'm struggling with where to go with this. So I think that I'm actually going to vote myself to stay with my original vote, which is for our needs budget.
Okay.
And I know that's not what you're looking for, but I just feel like we need to start to discuss this when we're in a good fiscal place. I think we need to have some focus on maybe budgeting in a different way. So for that reason alone, and it's no disrespect to any of you or to anybody else, depending on how you vote, I'm going to stick with my original vote.
That's fine. Do I have a recommendation?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Okay, motion, I keep saying recommendation.
I'll make a motion that we approve a school department operating budget for fiscal 14 in the amount of $41,838,228 as recommended by the Education Subcommittee of the Advisory Committee, voted by the Board of Selectmen and the Advisory Committee.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Hold on, if I could just say, I completely agree with Carol. However, in the interest of being a team player, understanding how the finances of a municipality work, and there was a time in the past that I didn't understand that. And I've taken a lot of time to get to understand that, because I think it's important if we're going to sit at this table, we need to understand not only our budget, but how the rest of the town works financially, and how the two interplay. So while I completely agree with Carol, and I would hope that when we look at the forecast for the next 4 or 5 years and we see positive numbers, which is really an aberration, we've never seen that before, in my experience at least, then I would hope there would be the ability to look beyond the present and the confines of level services and be able to begin to address not only restoring additional things that have been cut, but also look at new initiatives, not just in the school department, but in other departments.
Oh, like providing heat for our firemen?
Yes, exactly.
I think that's a great idea.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Ed, would you like to say something?
I agree with Carol as well. Ray expressed my thoughts better than I could.
So I suppose I should just comment that I'm encouraged by the fact that we have moved toward restoring some things that were taken out. We hadn't been discussed, before the budget season started, so I think we're moving in the right direction, that, that I think everybody understands where we're coming from. And again, not just us, but I think other departments as well should be looking at it in the same way, and I look forward to being able to, as a town, to provide the level of services that I believe our citizens want. So I'm in favor of going with the recommended motion.
So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So noted. Six point two is to act on proposed fees for the 2013-14 year for Kids in Action programs as recommended by the Policy Subcommittee.
Give me 1 second.
Okay, take your time.
So I think in your packet you have the chart that we have John actually put together for us. This has been actually sort of a work in progress. We had met about a month ago, and there was a recommendation to increase some fees. And we had made a vote at that time, but when Kathy applied the fees, she realized there was some sort of inequities in how the fees were coming out. And that is that the 2-day fees, sort of the per event or per rate charge, should be higher than the 5 days, because you have some economies of scale, and we're encouraging our program, for people to utilize it. So John and Kathy came back to us, and we met last week, and they sort of changed some rates around, and so that there would be a progression from the 2-day to the 5-day that made more sense. You wouldn't want to be paying more per day going from 3 to 5 in terms of a, what's the word?
Daily rate.
Like a daily rate.
Yeah.
So, and that was when we were looking at the schedule before that was happening. So like, you would go down from 2 to 3, but then there was a jump from 3 to 5, and so that made no sense from Kathy's perspective. So she was looking for something that was more uniform. So in any event, this is the rates that we've discussed. It has 2 clarifications. The one rate on the top line, under 3 days and 2 days, should really say not applicable, because there is no pre-K rate for 2 and 3 days a week. It only applies to the 5-day
Okay.
rate. And down to the before-school fees, where it says one rate again, that actually, that 150, 160 column that's under 5 days should be carried all the way across, because people that pay a fee before school pay one flat fee, whether you go 2 days or 5 days. So
So it's
just for clarification.
$160?
So it would be, the current rate is 150.
Yeah.
The proposed monthly rate would be 160.
Okay.
And the proposed annual would be 1,600. And I think Dennis and Andy and I thought that would just be clearer for parents that we're looking at.
Which is the same way it's been done in the past.
Yes, that's the way, we're just changing the language. Kathy also told us these rates bring us into a market rate with other similar programs, which we were a little under budget. The fees from this program goes to pay for the teachers, the paras, money, $15,000 towards supplies and snacks for 13 different programs, half a custodian approximately, John?
Yeah, about a third.
$10,000 towards utility costs, and approximately $70,000 towards health insurance for the town, which we're trying to get to a higher percentage. So that's where the money goes. Dennis, do you have anything? Did I miss
The only
anything?
thing is that we have a real opportunity, I think, because, the class sizes are not maxed out for this program. So if we were able to recruit additional kids into the program, there'd be relatively few additional costs.
Sure.
So the classes are like 10 or 11, and they could go up to 15 or 16, or in some cases even larger than that. So there's an opportunity here to hopefully gain some additional revenue.
I did specifically ask Kathy if she felt that this proposed increase is approximately 6.25%. Some places it might be lower, other places, I guess it wouldn't be higher, but
Yeah, generally, the whole blended rate, when you look at the current enrollment, if you projected that out based on current rates versus these new proposed rates, would be up about 6.5% in total.
And we had asked her, because this was one of the considerations we had when we were talking about the pre-K fee, or preschool fee, about that balance between enrollment and making money, that, you know, you want it to be equal, because if you raised it too much, you might then decrease your enrollment, which we don't want to do. And she felt this was, felt very comfortable with it.
Okay,
I have a couple questions.
all right. Ray has a few questions.
Now that this brings us in line with the other programs market,
We're still very competitive and under, I mean, you know, we're still a very good program, under market for the most part. But
I know
getting
we've looked at
closer.
I know we looked at that chart in the years past about the
Yeah.
other programs, other towns and whatnot. Have we looked at how often, now that we're kind of competitive rather than below, have we looked at how often those market or competitive numbers increase their rates? So going forward, now that we're more in line with them, we can get a better sense of how often we should be looking at. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well, I think we'd look annually, right?
I know we look annually, but
Yes.
in terms of increasing it annually versus not increasing it.
I'm not sure I understand the question,
Well,
I'm
I
sorry.
think we talked about, and I think it was one of Andy's comments, is that we look at this and we increase it at least 2% almost every year because our salary increases. We're not even at where we promised the town to be to cover our health
100%.
Yeah.
insurance.
No, I know.
So I think you're going to expect to see this bump up. I mean,
And
I
I
won't
expect
be
that in the
at
market,
2%.
rate situations, they go up annually as well.
Right.
yeah.
Normally, yeah.
So we'd look at those, and we certainly wouldn't come back with a recommendation to bring us too high above market, but we want to be, I think we want to be within
And
a market rate, a little less. I mean, it's a good value. This is a very good value program for the
Yeah.
dollars, even as we're currently proposing.
Dr. Gallo, you have a comment?
Yeah, just something that came up just the other day about this, and that I think is a point we could make as we look at the rates, the incentive, the market, and so on, and that is on Friday morning, early, I got a handful of upset calls, and one of the people who called wanted to tell me several things that she was unhappy with while she was at it, and one of the things that she talked about was that she was talking about the issue of working parents and how decisions such as snow days would impact them, and obviously decisions do. But she also brought up in that conversation Kids in Action as another example of how she felt we didn't really respond to parent needs because of the fact that there's a pickup in two different places. For the afternoon program, it exists in 2 buildings and not in 4 buildings. And that is an inconvenience. If you have a very young child and an older child, you've got to go from one to the other. And I pointed out that, in fact, that was trying to be responsive to parent needs, particularly about the rates, because if, in fact, the program were in all 4 buildings and not in 2, that would double the personnel, and we would have to increase the prices. So one of the things that I think we need to keep in mind is what is the market? Where are we? Are there things about our program that either would make it more appealing or less appealing that might deserve consideration in rate setting as well? I just mention that, not to impact this decision, but just to keep in mind as we compare.
And did you have another
Yeah,
question?
just one other question. When you talk about the difference between 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, I get the argument about economies of scale and trying to be, but there's no difference in cost for the program.
You mean
Like in
terms of
providing
teachers?
a
Right.
service for 2 days versus 3 days versus 5 days.
I don't believe so, but I guess I would defer to
Well,
John.
the only thing is that it is more difficult for us to find teachers and staff up for a 2 or a 3 day than it is a
Right.
5 day. So it would be beneficial for us in running the program if everybody went to 5 days. So the 2 and 3 are really more of a convenience and is the way I
And 2,
understand
3,
it.
yeah, it's a workforce management issue where, you know, if you have a high volume of kids, we have to maintain certain percentages. And our percentages are very good relative to
Yeah,
others.
no,
that are out there.
absolutely, I get that. I was just kind of thinking how it would impact a parent, say, both parents work full-time, need to utilize 5 days a week, right? But then maybe another situation where one parent works full-time, one parent works part-time. And so that parent who's working part-time is making less money, yet has to pay a higher rate for fewer days.
They're still paying way less money than they would pay a babysitter.
I understand. I'm just
Not
talking
that
about.
I'm saying this is
Yeah.
babysitting.
No, I'm just
It's a
asking,
huge
I'm just comparing the, yeah.
component.
No, I get it,
But
I get it.
it's pretty reasonable.
I'm not arguing that, I just, in my mind, just trying to reconcile the, okay, thank you.
So, would you like to make a motion? It's your
So I am going to make a motion that we raise the Kids in Action monthly fees for 2013, 2014 as set out in the schedule as I've amended it with those two clarifications.
Second?
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great.
Can I just like to say one thing about, well, actually, I'll say it on the policy update.
Okay. 6.3 is to review the Fields project, budget, and bidding process, and to take any actions as may be appropriate. I don't know where to begin. Sorry. Actually, let's start with the building update, right? Or do you want to?
Well, I think with respect to the concession, Ed, Annie, and I met again last Wednesday? I don't remember. For, I think, the last time, finalized decisions on the concession building, and chose the shingles and the siding material. And we also finalized some alternate choices.
Right.
That you had asked us to look at.
To look at.
But with respect to the building, I think, and I look forward to Gail giving us a rendering of what it'll look like, because we spent a lot of time on it, not only to kind of maximize the utility of the structure for the uses that we're hoping to enjoy, with respect to storage, concession, and bathroom facilities, but also really paid attention to concerns of neighbors about how it might look. And no one has specifically said, well, gee, we don't want this, or we don't want that, but kind of, we came to the conclusion that, maybe having a particular look might be better than others. So we tried to make it look more like a house than a school building. And I think that folks will be pleased with the way it'll look from the street, coming from all angles. And I think it's going to be a great facility to benefit, the entire community. It really offers a lot in terms of how we've designed it, so.
But nobody's going to actually be living there, right?
Nobody will be living there.
Just want to make sure it was...
Nobody will be living there.
Well, it does have heat and
Does have
bathroom
heat.
fixtures, we know that.
Yeah. There's no shower.
We received 2 letters, one from Selectman Lauder and another from Selectman Burns, in regard to the recommendation to advisory. We have not received one from Selectman Rebufo. Unsure if that's going to be in your packages, and maybe it wasn't sent electronically, or...
We received the others electronically, so I'm surprised we haven't heard anything. I don't expect to see them tonight.
Okay, as you know, the selectmen had committed to making a writing their own thoughts on the project and giving that to advisory. Advisory will be voting tonight on the project itself. Tommy did a great job on the comments. I was just starting to go through them. I took the small ones first, and then we'll take some time later to go through all of it. The bids went out, right?
The bids they're available Friday.
Friday?
Yeah,
For the fields.
the bids, they'll be available,
What's today?
I'm sorry, where's my
The
timeline?
11th. I thought they were available the 8th
Mhm.
for pickup, which is why we had to have all of you look at the alternatives.
Oh, right.
So,
Well, the documents had to be done by the
Yeah.
7th.
Right, yeah, so Friday, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
Friday, yep.
Yeah, for the fields.
It was a Friday.
yeah, last Friday. It was last Friday.
Right, the documents were available Friday, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Okay,
Yep,
so that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Moving right
no, it's
along
good.
there, and hopefully...
right. There's an ad posted on the, there's a solicitation posted on the website. We have a legal notice going into Patriot Ledger that'll post on Wednesday. requirement is 2 weeks before. There'll be a walk-around, walk-around at the south parking lot on March 14th, which is this week at 4 o'clock, for vendors to come take a look. And the bid openings for this portion, for the field portion, will be on 3/29.
That's great. Are we invited to participate in the walk-around on the 14th?
Anybody can, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
What time, 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Yep.
So that's for the vendors, so you can see what vendors will show up, and the vendors will ask questions about the project, and Gail will be there, and they'll be able to respond to the questions, so.
I went to the track in the tennis court.
Okay.
Track one, so.
Yeah,
good.
absolutely. You see how that works.
Yeah.
Right, and then the bidding schedule for the concession building, which is done separately, comes right kind of after that, and those bids will be opened on the 19th.
Okay.
April.
Correct.
Yep.
So that's
Sorry,
the...
what date?
The April 19th.
19th, okay.
Because of the, because they had to be bid separately under two different statutes. So that's, the concession number will be right up against town meeting. That'll be the last number we have.
Any other comments or questions on 6.3?
The meeting, did,
Oh, the
You
April
want to present
29th?
it? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we should have a brief
that,
meeting.
of course, makes an assumption that there is an affirmative vote at town meeting on the Monday or the Tuesday, and maybe that's optimistic, but I think we should be
Let's be optimistic, sure.
What if town meeting is extended until the 29th?
Well, obviously, we can't award a bid unless we have a favorable vote, so we would have to change the day of the
Well, you'd meet
of the meeting.
and adjourn, right? At
Well,
town
we just
meeting.
wouldn't,
Right.
we would
But
know
cancel the
that,
meeting, right, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
as of the 23rd, so then we would have to,
And election day is the 30th.
Yeah. The bid price would be good for 45 days, Cal, so, we could always not award on that day, it's the plan would change the plan.
I'm just assuming town meeting will go to 3 nights.
Right,
Maybe four.
but the Fields articles could be,
No, I understand.
right. I think we should have a meeting on the 29th, if nothing else, just for you to have the last meeting.
Okay. There you go.
I'm serious. To be
All right.
honest.
so we'll schedule it, and then we can change or,
Okay.
if we need to. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, 6.4, and I haven't read this letter in the, right, was it in our package?
No,
Okay.
give it to us tonight.
Good, because I would feel guilty if I didn't read it. Is to act on approval of a change order request from Gallo Associates for additional compensation for contract design and permitting meeting attendance. As we all know, we had quite a few meetings that Gail had to attend, more so than they originally thought would be necessary, and probably that they've experienced in other towns. So, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, sure. At the end of the Concom meeting last week, Bill presented me with this letter, as a request for change orders, with the total amount, the change order request of $33,130, which is above my approval limit. My limit is $10,000, and, throughout the course of the project, one Gale approval that I have made has been for $3,500 to do a topographic survey of the Hingham, of the Union Street, for the purposes of placing the curbs and the construction. With this here, the amount, they're talking about the additional meetings that they've attended, and then also some extra charges for the sound contractor. I think that there's a lot of, and I've reviewed the document, I think there's a lot in this document that is legitimate and makes sense, and I think that Bill and I should have a conversation of the document, and, about, what charges we would sort of reasonably accept. So, I guess in this meeting, if, and I think additional compensation is in fact just.
It's warranted.
But I think what it should be is a negotiation and not a flat-out approval of this amount. So, to that extent, I think that if there were some motion, that motion I would ask to be to, approve a order up to, this $33,000 to be negotiated.
Do we have to approve it tonight, or can we approve it after you have that discussion with Gail?
Um,
Whatever you would prefer.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking if I had, if I had the authority, then I could sit down and try to, reasonably negotiate some of the pieces of this, because I just may have different views on how some of the meetings, came out.
Okay.
So,
I mean, I'd just like to point out, they've attended 47 meetings, 24 meetings.
So pretty soon we'll have properly vetted this, you're saying?
Yeah.
Of the 47, 14 were ad hoc meetings after they were appointed to the project, but that's still 33 other meetings, and I would point out that they attended those meetings, and many of us also
Right.
attended, and some of you also attended all those meetings, so.
yeah, they've absolutely worked hard in this, and so they've certainly put in their time, and they have ample resources, as we all know, by them going back and doing work. So.
Yeah, and in the sound study, we didn't account for all the meetings at the sound, I think there was just one meeting that
Right.
was in his,
And you came back 3 times.
and he came back 3 times and sat
Right.
for hours.
Right.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to make a motion that we authorize John Ferris to enter into discussions with Gail with respect to their request for a change order in the amount of $33,130 to negotiate an agreement on such change order in an amount not to exceed said $33,130.
May I have a second?
I second that.
Do we have further discussion?
Yeah, just one comment, and that is, I'm looking at the Kavanaugh Tochi Associates, and if I understand this correctly, Gail had a proposal from them that looks like it was dated October 8th, that said it was going to be $9,980. Now, maybe somebody else had seen this before, but if we were allocating $2,500 and they had a proposal on October 2nd that says $9,980, see where I'm on the...
Yes.
That's what Gail carried in their contract, and then they found out that the price was different. And I think
But I'm
that's a
saying-
negotiable item,
But I'm
and
saying
something we should discuss.
the proposal was dated October 2nd,
Yes.
and it's now March 11th. Seems to me they might have brought up at some point, hey, we're carrying $2,500, and we have a quote that we're recommending we go forward with at $9,900.
It's pieces like that, Dennis, that I think we should discuss, just to come to reasonable terms.
Right, I mean, that's something that John can say, well, wait a minute, but as you said, that's something you should have brought to our attention, and perhaps that should not have been something you pursued at that price, given that you carried a much
Exactly.
lesser amount.
Okay.
I agree with you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, leaves and resignations. Dot, I wanted to ask you, so we have, oh, John?
Could I possibly just review the budget with you? At least, this item was meant to review the budget as well, Dot, I assume? Or is that
Fields
somewhat?
budget? Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so there's to this, the article that we had on October of, I'm mixing up my years now, but the
2011.
one that approved the track and the tennis courts.
The special
and
town meeting
town
article you're
meeting.
talking
Special town meeting, right, for this project. The easy parts of the tennis court, that's completed, that came in at $43,886. The budget for that was $60,000, so we're $16,114 positive on that. The track, Brad still has not sent us the final bill, but that doesn't, we know exactly what the final bill will be. But the track project was budgeted for $600,000. That came in at $487,453. So that's $112,000 on the budget. And that includes a $30,000 grant that Margaret got for the California product coating and stuff. So that's good. Now, the project that we're currently working on, the Phase 2 design project, so we have a budget of $275,000 for that.
Yeah.
Right now, we have committed and payable, and I've included the change order amount in this sort of committed or payable column of $235,391. In there too, I mean, those are the items, like we have these, the peer reviews, have no handle on where those bills are, except for when they come in, I've tracked them, so I've tried to put some allowance for those in. I mean, we've had $14,000, 14,800 peer reviews in, and, you know, and then I do have some allowance in there for additional ones, you know, because I know Chessier's been at a couple of additional meetings. We have $25,000 allocated to legal expenses. You know, so we have, and we've expended $16,000, so we have a few more thousand that we have availability of, but there have been meetings, so I'm just not sure that I'm current on, you know, what the actual amounts will be.
Okay.
So right now, we have a budgeted amount of $275 and sort of committed payables of $235. The items, I have some money reserved for additional change orders in this budgeted amount, and some miscellaneous money of about $8,500 to kind of cover some additional expenses as we go forward. So anyway, so we're still doing well relative to budget, but they're just, you know, we're getting close right now. So we want to be very careful with the expenditures and, you know, make sure we do not exceed our limit for this section of the project.
Right. So the 235 includes the 33 in the change order?
Yes, I
Okay,
put the
full
entire
amount.
33 in. It also, so we had, the base project was about $100,000, but then the building was an add-on on top of that, so that was $40,000.
Right.
You know, then you add this other $33,000 for the potential change orders, you know, another $15,000 or $20,000 for peer reviews. So, you know, it's gone, the project's gone
Yeah, that.
much higher than
Bill
$100,000.
from Chesia on the peer review is going to be significant.
Yeah,
I
because
think.
he's reviewing right now as we speak.
Exactly, right. So I have some additional reserve for him, whether I have enough or not. I mean, I have, you know, a few $1,000s, like $3,000, and then I have a little bit additional reserve for other peer reviews in my projections.
Okay.
So I think, you know, and that's within the budget amount. I'll move those over once I get a bit of feel for them, but there are some items here which I haven't put committed and payable because I'm just not sure of the work that's going on yet.
Okay. Does that include the legal?
It is.
The legal, yes. So I've got 25 budgeted, and I'm presuming that 25 is committed and payable. It may go slightly over, or maybe it'll come in a little bit under. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Because there, since the last bill, there have been a number of meetings, which, you know, fairly long meetings. Okay, and then the other work that's done in the background there, too. It's hard to really know what those charges will be until they actually come in. But I wanted to make the committee aware of where we are relative to the overall finances of Phase 2 of this project.
So even if we go up to the Phase 2 planning of the, and up to full 275, you're saying we're still about 100, and a little over 128,000 under on the tennis courts and the track?
Oh, yeah, the overall, the overall article of 935 will certainly come in under, because, I mean, I'm presuming for the field section, we just want to spend at most that 275 and target that, because that's what we told the town would do. So, I mean, the 112 and the 16, I presume we would just give back to the town.
Or we could use it for stuff in the operating budget, probably, is what they might suggest. Probably not.
I don't think I do that.
Or at least say that publicly on TV. All right. Any other questions in regard to the budget?
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, so 6.5 and 6.8 and 6.9 are extended leaves of absence.
Yes.
Okay, and then 6.6, 6.7 are alternative leave of absences.
Yes. The extended leaves are some maternity leave, the alternate are extensions of the alternate leave.
Okay. And then 6.10 and 6.11 are resignations. We wish them luck. And 6.12 is to receive notification of the appointment of Mary Ellen Haller. There's my assistant. Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
On the agenda.
We welcome her. I'm sure Margaret welcomes her.
Certainly does, and
Gratefully.
hopes that she'll stay, given her recent record of short-term folks.
And then we have 3 field trips.
We do.
Okay. So 6.13 is to receive information regarding an overnight of the Drama Club to New York City, which they do annually, correct?
Yes, they do, and always a good trip, and not heard any major problems, and very enthusiastic folks coming back.
6.14 is the high school crew team heading down to Washington College in Maryland. Comments or questions?
This has happened before, I'm not sure if it's annual, but they have made a similar trip before.
6.15 is to receive information regarding the overnight field trip of the quiz bowl team. This is a new one.
Well, this is actually last year.
Okay.
They went, and this is a
DC.
parent advisor. It's only a small number of students, but I think 4 or 5 students are attending.
And Ed, your forms are typed neatly?
I couldn't be happier.
Good. Glad to hear. Okay. Do we have any other items not reasonably known within 48 hours? Okay.
No.
Building committee report.
Yeah, there's really not much to say. The only thing I would say, because we just talked about a change order for the Fields project, we did building committee just approved the first change order for the middle school project. It was about $14,000, which represents, I think, 0.06% as compared to expended budget so far, which is something that our project manager hasn't seen. It's remarkable for this stage. The project has been really going well. And a lot of that is tree removal work that we've done for neighbors, and also on Rosemary Lane, and on a couple of other items that have come up recently, which are not significant at all. So it's a real small number, and everyone's paying close attention to make sure that we keep those numbers down. But some of those things had been coming along, but we hadn't officially voted on them till there was a group of them together, and we had all the documentation, had all the pricing, and then approved that last week. Just real quickly, when we did meet last week, we had a rather lengthy meeting. Tom, you would have enjoyed it.
You didn't invite me.
It was good because we actually looked at interior
Good meeting,
design.
not good that you weren't there.
We looked at interior design choices. There was a group of staff that had worked with Roger and the architect to, make some choices about how things would look inside. And we agreed with a lot of them, and some of them not so much. And some revisions are being made, but overall, it's really going to look wonderful. So that's in the works as well. So it's really neat to see the actual rooms come alive as they will look, in terms of color, in terms of materials, things like that. So that was a rather lengthy meeting, but a good process to go through. And the construction is going along just great.
That's great. The snow didn't slow us down at all.
The snow, not just the snow, but the storms over the last few months have put us off schedule a couple of weeks, but our project manager feels confident that the contractor can make up the time in the next month or two with the weather improving. So we're really not behind, and we're still tracking on or under budget, so it's not a concern.
It's a challenge for the Fields project, right?
Yeah,
On time and under.
They were there plowing on Saturday.
that's right. Yeah, they work most Saturdays, which is good.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, any subcommittee reports?
So just on policy, just want to follow up. One of the items we've had on our agenda this year to look at our athletic fees at the high school, and we just keeps getting bumped because of more pressing issues. And it's a complex issue to look at, because not only are we looking at what the fees are in other towns, we're looking at how many participants are there that play 1 sport, 2 sports, 3 sports, some Title IX input. So we're just not going to be able to get it completed the way we want to have it done this year. But we haven't had any increases in 3 years, and so I think we all feel strongly that there should be some increase for next fall on that particular fee. But we also are concerned about, the Fields project and how, when we're fixing the drainage, some of the fields will be kind of offline for a while. So maybe, and this is not a proposal tonight, I'm just kind of letting you know what our thoughts are, maybe that additional increase of maybe $20 or $25, we might sort of dedicate for the next year to putting towards field-related unanticipated costs, or the fact that the revenue's down, like additional police details or maintenance at the new concession stand. So just to kind of, until we get up and running and get the revenue that we hope, will be generated from that project to kind of cover the expenses. So it's just our thinking, just letting you know where we're leaning. So, anyway, it's where
That's
we're
a
at.
tough one,
It is.
because you want as many kids as possible to participate.
You do, but the interesting thing is not all the kids play 3 sports, so is that fair for some kids to play 1 sport and pay the same fee as somebody who's playing 3 sports?
Right.
So, anyway, there's a lot of different factors to look at, and we need to have the time to do that.
Okay,
And this is not the year to do it,
no,
unfortunately.
I agree.
So,
Are you going to be looking at, I know we're looking at a new form for
and we are.
field use.
We are totally renovating the form. We've had several meetings on that. And,
Okay.
Dennis actually has been doing a
Some
great job
draft,
on that.
which is great.
And we're going to meet with John in early May to get some input on revised fees.
Okay, that was my next
Right.
question. If we have a new multipurpose
Absolutely.
field.
Well, and as Andy pointed out at our meeting, just not the field, but the facilities, with the middle school coming online, and you have that, what's that, the room called, the...
Distance learning theater.
Learning lab theater. I mean, that might be a very specialized space that people might want to be renting out when the school's not in session, so...
Yeah, sure.
Those good thoughts, so
Okay.
there's a lot to be done on that. And we've done a lot. It's just it's a comprehensive, and we've been looking at it over several months.
Okay. My only comment that I'll leave you with when you guys decide to look at this would be that I hope the fee wouldn't be too much. I mean, I would want the nonprofits
You
to
talking
feel
about the
comfortable.
athletic fee,
Yeah.
or are you talking about
The athletic,
Rental-
the
rental
rental
fee.
of the fields, right? Right now, I know we charge a lot for the natural grass field, Michelson, because really we want to limit the use on it, we're trying to rest it. But I would hope that the fee would be reasonable, and in line with what they pay at Cohasset. I know, and I guess we should publicly thank Hingham Sports Partnership, who just paid for the boys and girls lacrosse to rent the fields over at the multipurpose synthetic field over at Cohasset, so they could have whole tryouts indoors. Again, I think this is the 3rd time they've done that for that group, but, just so that we're in line and
Sure.
the field is usable and affordable to our groups. All right, any other subcommittee reports here? No. Okay. Superintendent's report.
A couple of things. One, I did put on the agenda, the storm update, and certainly Friday morning was a morning that changed from 4:20 when I woke up until about 8:15, I guess, when I had to make the second decision. And, I do take pride in trying to use the data that's available and making decisions, and between 4:30 and 5, the information I got was on the weather, that the snow would be out of the area by 9:30, that the sun would likely be out by noon, and melting would ensue. I spoke to our DPW person 3 different times, who felt that if he had 2 more hours beyond the regular opening time, he would be able to get the lots done. And talked with John several times, and with Paul Field, and also area superintendents. And in Cohasset and Hanover and Hingham and Norwell, there was consensus that we should do a 2-hour delay. And so that's what we called at that point. By the time I got out on the road, which is about 6:15, 6:30, and took a tour of the schools, it was beginning to snow more heavily. And by 7:30, it was clear that it was snowing very heavily. Still not with a firm prediction of where it was all going to end up, but anyway, made a decision at that point that we needed to cancel school. And this is the first time we've had to do that, so we were unsure of whether the messages that we went out the first time would somehow compromise the second level of messages, but John was able to get a message on the school messenger and on the website, and Roger Bodie, thank goodness for Roger, who comes to work early every day, he was able to send out a message through X2, which we'd never done before, an email message, and so I think people were well publicized. That being said, there were people upset on both sides of the argument. People who woke up at 7:30 and saw a terrible snowstorm and thought we were having a delay, called to ask what crazy person had made that decision. And on the other hand, folks who had gone off to work early, thinking that there was a delay, and then finding school was canceled, were concerned that what was going to happen now at home. So I absolutely understand those concerns. That being said, while I'm always concerned that people are upset, and I have to say, I think I made the right decision at
Both
4 or
times.
5, and the right decision at 7:30, because in the end, we have to go with the decision that is the safest for everyone. So, and I don't think, even though there's a thing in today's Ledger, that opinion poll they do every day, the question was, like, who's at fault for not having good plowing or whatever? And of course, it was never the forecasters, it was the leadership should have been better prepared. And I guess we're part of that, certainly, but not blaming the forecasters. I don't think anybody should be blamed. Things like this happen, and you do the best thing that you can do with the information. And so I'm not here to defend my decision, but to say that I do understand when people are upset. But sometimes, folks don't understand that decisions are made 4 hours before our last school starts, and a lot can happen in the winter in 4 hours in New England. So enough said on that. A couple of other things that I wanted to mention is that we are firming up, Ellen and I worked this afternoon to firm up dates for our middle school principal selection process, a timeline. You are aware that this will be a public process while it is an internal posting, and that posting went out today. We still want there to be a formality, a process about it. So during the week of March 27th, a week that includes March 27th, I think that's a Wednesday, we will have a forum for staff who would like to come and make some comments about the kinds of issues that a new principal in that building will face and what priorities are and so on. A similar event for interested parents that evening. We'll get this all publicized, but we're just finalizing those plans. A similar parent forum in the evening. And then subsequent to the posting period closing, and that happens on April 10th, we would have a public interview. And our public interview would be with a panel of folks who represent the different constituencies. So we're thinking of a 10-person panel that would include 2 school committee folks, 2 parents, 2 fellow administrators in the district, 2 teachers, a student, and a support staff member, and that those people would have an opportunity in a public forum, with anyone who wants to attend, to ask questions of the candidate that represent concerns or views of the constituencies. The data from all of those things would be what we would hope to share with the new principal for awareness of priorities, parent, student, teacher priorities, and for the person to be able to take those things into consideration as he or she might enter the process. So all of this would be to get us near an appointment, or get us to an appointment date of, I think, by our May 6th meeting. So there is a process, even though it is not a national search, but there is very much a process and opportunities for parents and other members of constituent groups to be involved. So I would say with respect to the school committee, Carol, that it would be, we think that meeting for the panel interview would be April 25th. Now, it's a busy week, obviously, with town meeting. But that would be the meeting, so I would ask that if there are folks that are interested, we need 2 school committee folks, If there are folks that would be interested in doing that, if they could let you know of their interest, then you could make appointments
Okay.
prior to that.
So just 2?
2, yeah,
Gotcha.
2 of the 10.
What would be the time for that participation?
I would say 7 to 9, 7 to 8:30.
In the evening?
In the evening, yes.
You in?
I would do it.
All right, and then I would also mention that you have a copy of the high school newsletter in your packet, and I was just, as I looked at it, I'm always impressed with all the things we have going on, but that particular issue has information about the math team and math contest, has information about the project that's ongoing in terms of getting input about our counseling program and changes there. So with respect to academic successes and student council information, it really is an impressive newsletter, and I think that we should send it on to some of the groups who might like to hear about our successes, and so I plan to do that.
Absolutely. I think our subcommittee would like to hear about this.
And last week was probably the busiest week that we've had in a long time in terms of mandates, because last week, the coordinated program review team of 2 was here Monday through Friday, and they actually came in the snow Friday to have our exit interview. That, of course, we've been planning for about a year, starting with the self-assessment last May and June, and so we will be getting that report, a draft of it probably in 7 or 8 weeks, but we may not get the whole report. Some pieces of it have to go off to other groups for their oversight and comment. But we feel it went well. They were very complimentary about the cooperation of our staff at all levels as they visited the building, met with teachers, met with principals, observed classes and that kind of thing. So we're happy with how that went. I'm sure there'll be things that they will want to suggest that we consider or do, but that was a good visit, we think, and a helpful one. Also last week, we had the end-of-year auditor come in. They simply here at times, so he was here for a couple days doing that audit on John's end-of-the-year report. And then today, we had in someone from the Department of Education doing an audit of our financial procedures, which is something we just found out about last fall, and John and Pat in particular had to put together a packet of information, and the person was here to do the interview, and we'll be hearing about that report. Ellen, at the same time, has been working on our program review for Title I, and that is a paper review in the sense that things have gone off, but I'm sure we'll hear feedback on that as well. So in the midst of all these other things, this review process has been a very vibrant one this year, but
And one more coming tomorrow. I have Title
Oh, Title
II.
IIA. And the total amount of money, Ellen, we get
58,000 plus.
58,000?
58,000.
So tomorrow I have at least an hour telephone conference with 2 Department of Ed people, and then a visit, I think it's May 14th, I think.
Having submitted all kinds of
All
documentation.
sorts of documentation.
With respect to those federal grants such as Title I and Title IIA, the procedures and the requirements are exactly the same, whether you get hundreds of thousands of dollars or $58,000. So it's been a demanding time.
So we can't apply for a grant to help us fill out the paperwork, right?
Would love to have that,
Great
or
idea.
pay for someone to
Yeah.
be here to help to do that. It would be a great thing. But so that's it on the superintendent's report.
Yeah, that's your grant writing.
Just a question on the school closings. So we've 3 days?
4 days.
4, I'm sorry, you're right,
We
4
had one
days.
with,
Because the hurricane.
hurricane,
Yeah.
yes.
So I know we usually look at that later on in the school.
Yeah,
calendar
I'll
in
be
terms of
asking you to vote on the
moving
last day of school, but it is 4 days, and at this point, that takes us through the Wednesday for the students.
Is it Thursday? Aren't we at Thursday?
The
now?
180th day was on a Friday, I think.
14th.
So
We don't have to look at it now.
so the 180th day went from Friday to Monday to Tuesday
So we're at the
to
20th,
Wednesday.
June
The
20th.
185 will go to next Friday. It would be going to
That's
next
okay.
Friday, right? We ended on a Friday, so the.
So if we ended on June
21st
14th, that was a Friday, that's a
21st
Friday.
Would be the last.
So we're at the 20th is 4 days. We have another day, it'll be the 21st.
And the teachers have one day beyond that.
Oh, so right now we're at the 20th. Mark your calendars. No more snow.
But graduation is
Graduation is not impacted in the sense that there is a state regulation, DESE regulation, that you cannot have the end of school come within less than the 2 weeks with respect to graduation. However, that is not that's with respect to your original planned date. They don't expect that you would change graduation because of the additional days of school.
So will the seniors, they usually get out earlier, correct? Then,
We'll be, there will be no change in the senior
okay.
dates, whether it's exams or the other activities. That isn't true in every state.
Right. No, in York, where I grew up, graduation was at the end of June after everyone finished with school. The seniors didn't graduate early. I like what we do here better.
Dr. Gallo, as busy as you were on Friday and the way things were changing, were you able to reach Jimmy and his pals?
Jimmy never called me. But there was an email from Jimmy today that was not very clear. I have the...
Just wondering.
Yeah, no, I didn't. Jimmy is a student who communicated with me a lot during the last. Very respectful, it's very interesting, giving me feedback from a student perspective, but I really didn't have any such things this
I think
time.
they were all pretty happy that they got to stay in bed.
Yeah, right.
Well, those who are seniors are particularly happy because they take glee in saying, well, we don't have to go
Exactly.
late, but not so much in the others, I would think, at this point.
Okay, I believe we have no need to adjourn to executive session, is
No,
that
we do
correct?
not.
Okay. So I will take a motion.
I'll move that we adjourn to the advisory committee meeting, but remain in session, not to return to our open session here.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.